Rain hammered the streets as Lila Hart stumbled from Midtown Children's Hospital, scrubs clinging to her skin, shoes waterlogged from the ambulance case hours earlier. 12 hours. 5 emergencies. 1 child saved. 1 lost. The wealthy district stretched before her, marble towers she'd never enter, lives she'd never touch. She kept her head down, counting steps toward home. Then she saw the car. Matte black, idling against the curb like a predator. Too expensive. Too deliberate. Through rain-blurred windows, a silhouette sat motionless, backlit by phone glow. The door opened. Cassian Vale stepped into the storm, charcoal coat, military posture, eyes sharp enough to dissect futures. The billionaire who owned Vale Med. The man whose equipment filled her operating rooms. His gaze locked onto her with surgical precision. "You're bleeding," he said. Lila froze. Her arm. The cut she'd forgotten. "It's nothing." "It's not." He stepped closer, rainwater sliding off him in perfect sheets. "Get in the car." Welcome to life in stories. If you love emotional twists, gripping characters, and powerful storytelling, you're in the right place. Make sure to subscribe, like, and tell me where you're watching from. I love hearing from our global story family. Now, settle in as we dive into today's tale. The storm didn't ask permission before it devoured the city. It rolled in fast and violent, swallowing streetlights whole, turning glass towers into shadowed monuments. Lightning cracked the sky open like bone, and thunder followed with the kind of low, rumbling threat that made people lock their doors and stay inside. Lila Hart walked straight into it. She pushed through the hospital's revolving doors at midnight, her scrubs still damp with rainwater from the ambulance bay, her hair frizzed beyond salvation, her body carved hollow by 12 hours of emergencies that had tested every limit she thought she had. 5 trauma cases. 2 surgeries. 1 miracle. 1 failure that still sat like lead in her chest. The rain hit her face immediately, cold and punishing, but she welcomed it. Anything to wash away the smell of antiseptic and the memory of a mother's scream. She turned left toward the wealthy district, the shortcut she took every night because it was faster and because walking past marble lobbies and luxury cars reminded her why she worked herself to the bone. Somewhere in those towers, people slept in silk sheets while she stitched up their children with equipment that cost more than her annual salary. The irony never got old. Thunder rolled overhead, deep and insistent. The streets were empty, washed clean of the usual chaos. Just her, the rain, and the distant wail of sirens she'd learned to tune out years ago. That's when she saw him. He stood beside a matte black town car, perfectly still despite the downpour, like the storm had carved an exception around him. Charcoal coat tailored to intimidation. Posture rigid. Phone in hand, but his attention wasn't on the screen. It was on her. Cassian Vale. She recognized him immediately, the man whose company name was stamped on half the machines she used daily. Vale Med. The billionaire who could buy hospitals the way normal people bought coffee. She'd seen him once before, from across a crowded gala ballroom, surrounded by people who laughed too loudly at things that weren't funny. He hadn't noticed her then. But he was noticing her now. Lila's feet slowed without permission. Something about the way he stood there, waiting, watching, felt deliberate. Planned. Like he'd known she'd walk this exact route at this exact time. She tightened her grip on her bag and kept walking, eyes fixed on the pavement ahead. "You're bleeding." His voice cut through the storm with surgical precision, calm, controlled, and absolutely certain. She stopped, glanced down at her left arm. A thin line of red crept from beneath her sleeve, diluted by rainwater but unmistakable. She'd forgotten about it. Hours ago, during the chaos of the second surgery, something had caught her skin. She'd wrapped it quickly, kept moving, and filed it away under problems for later. "It's nothing," she said without looking at him. "Just a scratch." "It's not nothing." He stepped forward, and she instinctively stepped back. Rain slid off his coat in perfect sheets, like even water knew better than to cling to him. "You're trembling," he added, and she hated that it was true. "I've had a long night." She tried to move past him, but he shifted, not aggressive, not threatening, just immovable. A wall dressed in expensive fabric. "Get in the car." What? No, I'm fine. I'm going home. You're not walking alone in this storm with an open wound and shaking hands. He opened the car door with one smooth motion, revealing warm leather interior and soft amber lighting. I'm not asking. Something about the way he spoke, absolute, unshakable, like gravity itself had bent to his will, cut through her exhaustion. Too tired to argue, too cold to care, she climbed inside. The door closed behind her with a soft, final click. Then he slid in beside her. The locks engaged automatically, sharp, metallic, definitive. The car moved without him giving instructions. No address. No destination discussed. Lila's pulse spiked. You live on Hemsworth Lane, Cassian said casually, like commenting on the weather. We'll take you there. Her stomach dropped. How do you know where I live? He didn't answer. Instead, his gaze drifted to her sleeve, where blood was blooming slowly through the damp fabric like a dark flower opening. Let me see it, he said quietly. No. Lila. Her name in his mouth felt like possession. Don't make me repeat myself. She swallowed hard, fear crystallizing into something sharp and cold. Mr. Vale, how do you know my name? He ignored the question. Reached for her wrist, not rough, but firm enough that resistance felt impossible. He pushed up her sleeve with careful, deliberate movements. The moment he saw the cut, deep, angry, still weeping, his entire body went still. Not frozen. Coiled. Who did this to you? No one. It's from work. A piece of broken equipment. Don't lie to me. His voice dropped into something soft and dangerous, the kind of soft that preceded explosions. I know every model of every device in that hospital. This wasn't caused by machinery. Her breath caught. He touched the edge of the wound with one fingertip. Featherlight. Clinical. This was a blade. The air left her lungs. He knew. He shouldn't have known. How? The word came out strangled. How do you know that? Because I've seen this kind of wound before. His eyes met hers, dark and bottomless. Many times. The car slowed. Turned. Descended into shadow. An underground garage. Not her building. Not her neighborhood. Panic flared hot and immediate. I said I wanted to go home. You're coming upstairs. No, Mr. Vale, please. He didn't touch her again. Didn't need to. When he opened the door and held out his hand, the unspoken command wrapped around her like rope. Trembling, legs weak, she followed him into a private elevator that ascended in terrible silence. The penthouse doors opened to reveal a space that felt more like a museum than a home. All clean lines, dark wood, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city drowning in rain. Cassian turned to face her. Sit down. She didn't move. His jaw tightened. Lila. Sit down. Now. Her legs gave out. She sank into the nearest chair because arguing felt impossible under the weight of his stare. He walked toward her slowly, each step deliberate, controlled, predatory. Rain battered the windows behind him, lightning illuminating his silhouette in brief, violent flashes. When he spoke again, his voice was ice and iron. You're not leaving until you explain that scar. Lila's breath came in shallow bursts, her heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. The chair beneath her felt too soft, too expensive, wrong in every way that mattered. Cassian Vale stood over her, perfectly still, perfectly composed, while lightning split the sky behind him in jagged white veins. Why do you even care? The words tumbled out before she could stop them. You don't know me. One dark eyebrow lifted. Don't I? He moved to the bar, sleek, minimalist, probably stocked with bottles worth more than her car, and poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a crystal glass. He didn't drink it. Just held it, watching the light refract through the whiskey. You work double shifts 3 times a week at Midtown Children's Hospital, he said conversationally, like reciting a grocery list. You take the wealthy district shortcut because it's faster, even though you hate walking past buildings you'll never afford. You eat lunch at your desk because you donate your meal stipend to the hospital's emergency fund for families who can't pay. Her stomach turned to ice. Last Tuesday, you stayed 4 hours past your shift to sit with a 7-year-old girl whose parents were stuck in traffic during her appendectomy. He finally looked at her, and his eyes were molten. You held her hand until she fell asleep. You didn't log the hours. Didn't ask for overtime. How? Her voice broke. How do you know any of that? Because I've been watching you. No hesitation. No shame. Just calm, terrifying certainty. The room tilted. Before she could process, before she could stand or scream or run, Cassian pressed something on his watch. A door she hadn't noticed opened, and a man emerged, late 50s, grey hair, wearing medical scrubs that looked far too crisp for the middle of the night. Dr. Chen, Cassian said without preamble. The wound on her left forearm. I need you to examine it. What? No, Lila tried to stand, but the doctor was already there, gentle but efficient, rolling up her sleeve with practiced hands. Just a quick look, Dr. Chen said kindly, though his eyes held the sharp assessment of someone who'd seen too much. He cleaned the area with antiseptic that burned, studied the cut under a penlight, then met Cassian's gaze with something heavy and unspoken. Consistent with a defensive wound, the doctor said quietly. Single-edged blade, approximately 4 inches. The angle suggests she raised her arm to protect her face or throat. Lila's vision swam. Deliberate. Cassian's voice had gone lethal. Without question. The room contracted to a pinpoint. She heard the doctor murmur something about antibiotics, about stitches that should have been done hours ago, but the words felt distant, underwater. When she surfaced again, Dr. Chen was gone. And Cassian was kneeling in front of her. His hands cupped her face, large, warm, impossibly gentle for someone who radiated such controlled violence. His thumbs brushed her cheekbones, and she realized she was crying. Tell me who did this to you, he whispered. It was an accident. Lila. Her name was a prayer and a warning. Please don't lie to me. Why? She choked on the word. Why do you even care? You don't know me. You don't. I know you saved a premature infant last week that every other doctor said wouldn't make it. His voice cracked, just slightly, just enough to prove he was human under all that ice. I know you work yourself to exhaustion because you think if you stop moving, you'll have to feel things you're not ready to feel. I know you hide everything, your fear, your pain, your brilliance, because you're terrified someone will see you and realize you're not invincible. Tears streamed down her face unchecked. I know, he continued, softer now, that you're the only person in my world who doesn't want anything from me, who doesn't see my money or my power or my name, who sees a donation check and uses it to buy better equipment instead of asking for more. You're wrong. I'm not. His forehead nearly touched hers. And that makes you rare, valuable, mine to protect. I'm not yours, she whispered, but the conviction was gone. Not yet. She tried to pull away, but his hands held her steady, not trapped, just anchored. Tell me his name, Lila. There's no one. The man who followed you Monday night. The one you ran from through the subway station. The one who waited outside your apartment building until 3 a.m. Her blood turned to Arctic water. How? She couldn't breathe. How do you know that? Cassian's jaw tightened. Because I had someone watching you, protecting you. And when he saw what was happening, he stopped, exhaled slowly through his nose. I took action. Lila shoved his hands away, stumbling to her feet. The room spun, but she forced herself steady, forced herself to back toward the door. I need to leave. No. You can't keep me here. Someone is trying to hurt you. He stood, but didn't follow. Just watched her with those impossible eyes. And until I know why, until I know you're safe, you're staying where I can protect you. Thunder shook the windows. Rain lashed the glass like accusation. This is insane, she breathed. You're insane. Probably. He tilted his head, something almost vulnerable flickering across his features. But I'm also right. She reached for the elevator button, but he crossed the space in 3 strides, not touching her, just standing between her and the door, a living barrier. "Please," she whispered. "Let me go." "Lila." His voice dropped to barely audible. "Someone followed you last night. Someone dangerous." Her heart stopped. The way he said it, past tense, finished, done. "What did you do?" The question came out strangled. Cashin's expression didn't change. Didn't flinch. Didn't apologize. "I took care of him." The world dropped away. "You." She couldn't form words. "You didn't." "He won't hurt you again." Cashin's voice was soft, certain, absolute. "No one will." Lightning illuminated his face in stark white relief, beautiful and terrifying and completely, utterly serious. "And I'll do it again," he whispered, "if it means keeping you alive." The words hung in the air between them like smoke, toxic and undeniable. "I took care of him." Lila's knees buckled. She caught herself on the back of the chair, knuckles white, breath coming in ragged gasps that sounded too loud in the silent penthouse. "You killed him." Not a question. A horrified statement of fact. Cassian didn't blink. "Yes." The single word detonated in her chest. She pressed her hand to her mouth, stomach lurching, the room spinning in sickening circles. Everything she'd learned about right and wrong, about law and order, about the sanctity of human life, all of it collided with the calm certainty in his voice. "Oh God!" A sob tore from her throat. "Oh God, what did you do?" He moved toward her, and she flinched back, but he kept coming, slow, inexorable, until he was close enough that she could see the storm reflected in his dark eyes. "Lila." His hands found her shoulders, steadying her when she swayed. "Look at me. You're a murderer. I'm a protector." His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "There's a difference." "There's no difference." Tears streamed down her face, hot and accusing. "You can't just, you don't get to decide." He was going to kill you. Each word landed like a hammer. He had a knife. He had your schedule. He knew where you lived, where you worked, what time you walk home. He'd been planning it for weeks. Her vision blurred. "How do you know that?" "Because I found his apartment." Cashin's thumbs brushed her shoulders in small, soothing circles. "I found the photos he'd taken of you. Hundreds of them. I found the timeline he'd mapped out. I found," his jaw clenched, "I found things that made it very clear what his intentions were." She couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. "So yes," he said softly, terribly. "I did what I had to. And I'd do it again without hesitation." Lila crumpled. The sobs came hard and fast, her body shaking with the force of them. Cassian caught her, pulled her against his chest, and let her cry into his expensive shirt while thunder rolled overhead like divine judgment. "You're safe now," he murmured into her hair. "I promise you're safe." When the tears finally subsided, when she could breathe again without choking, she pulled back just enough to see his face. "Why?" Her voice was wrecked. "Why do you even care?" Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor, a glimpse of something raw and human beneath. "Because I saw you save a child last week," he said quietly. "A boy who'd been brought in after a car accident. Critical condition. Internal bleeding. Every doctor said he wouldn't make it through surgery." Lila remembered. The 10-year-old with the soccer jersey. The mother who'd begged God for mercy. "You stayed in that operating room for 7 hours, Cassian continued. "You refused to give up. And when everyone else said it was over, you found a way. You fought for him like he was your own." He cupped her face, thumbs wiping away the tear tracks. "I watched you walk out of that hospital at 2 a.m., exhausted, covered in someone else's blood, and you were smiling. Because he lived. Because you saved him." His voice dropped. "And I thought, that's someone worth knowing. That's someone worth protecting." Fresh tears blurred her vision. "I noticed you long before that night," he admitted. "At the gala 6 months ago. You were serving champagne to people who didn't see you, didn't thank you, Didn't realize they were in the presence of someone extraordinary. But I saw you. And I haven't been able to stop seeing you since. Cassian. Tell me the truth now. His voice turned gentle but insistent. About the scar. About what really happened. Lila closed her eyes, the memories rushing back like poison. He followed me for days, she whispered. I'd see him on the subway. Outside the hospital. Near my apartment. I thought I was paranoid. Imagining things. Cassian's hands tightened on her face. Then Monday night, he cornered me. Her voice broke. In the alley between the pharmacy and the laundromat. He had a knife. He said. She swallowed hard. He said he'd been watching me. That I was perfect. That I belonged to him. A low, dangerous sound rumbled in Cassian's chest. I fought back. Ran. The knife caught my arm when I shoved past him. Tears streamed freely now. I didn't report it. I didn't tell anyone. I wanted to forget it happened. You shouldn't have had to go through that alone. His forehead pressed against hers. You should never have to go through anything alone again. I don't understand why you care so much. Because you matter to me. The words were fierce, protective, absolute. More than you know. More than I can explain. He pulled back, took her hand, and led her across the penthouse to a section of wall that looked like any other. He pressed his palm against it, and the panel slid open to reveal a hidden room. Inside was everything someone might need to disappear. Monitors showing security feeds, supplies, a bed, a bathroom, even a small kitchenette. This is a safe room, Cassian explained. Bulletproof walls. Encrypted communications. No one can get to you here. Not the man who hurt you, he paused. Not anyone. Lila stared at the space, overwhelmed. You can stay as long as you want, he said quietly. Days. Weeks. However long it takes for you to feel safe again. I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm not asking you to forgive what I did. I'm just asking you to let me protect you. She turned to face him, searching his eyes for deception, for manipulation, for anything that would make sense of this impossible situation. All she found was sincerity. This isn't ownership, he said, reading her thoughts. This is safety. You can leave whenever you want. But please, his voice cracked. Stay tonight. Just tonight. Lightning flashed, illuminating them both in stark white relief. Outside, the storm raged. Inside, something was shifting, fear transforming into something else, something tentative and terrifying and undeniable. Lila looked at the safe room, at Cassian's desperate eyes, at the rain-battering windows that suddenly felt like barriers against a world that had tried to hurt her. Okay, she whispered. Cassian's eyes closed, and the relief that washed over his face was so profound it nearly broke her. Thank you, he breathed. And for the first time all night, Lila wondered if maybe, just maybe, she'd found something more dangerous than the man who'd followed her. She'd found someone willing to burn the world down to keep her safe. Sunlight woke her. Not the harsh, intrusive kind that felt like an assault, but soft golden light filtering through sheer curtains, warming her face with gentle insistence. For a confused moment, Lila didn't know where she was, the bed too soft, the sheets too expensive, the silence too complete. Then she remembered. Cassian. The penthouse. The confession that should have sent her running but somehow hadn't. She sat up slowly, muscles aching from exhaustion she'd been carrying for weeks. The guest suite was beautiful in daylight, minimalist but warm, all clean lines and natural materials. On the chair beside the bed, she found fresh clothes laid out. Soft cotton pants, a cashmere sweater, everything in exactly her size. Her stomach twisted. He'd thought of everything. The smell of coffee drew her from the room. She found Cassian in the kitchen, a space of marble and steel that looked like it belonged in a magazine, standing at the counter with 2 mugs. He'd changed from last night's suit into dark jeans and a simple black Henley that made him look younger, more human, less like a man who'd admitted to murder with the calm of someone discussing weather. He looked up when she entered, and something flickered across his face. Relief, maybe. Or fear that she'd disappear. Good morning, he said quietly. I wasn't sure how you take your coffee. Black is fine. She accepted the mug, wrapping both hands around it for something to hold. Thank you. They stood in awkward silence, the events of last night hanging between them like ghosts. Why? The word escaped before she could stop it. Why did you protect me so fiercely? You barely know me. Cassian set down his mug with careful precision, his jaw working like he was choosing words from a limited, painful vocabulary. I had a sister, he said finally. Elena. She was 23. Brilliant, kind, too trusting for her own good. Past tense. Lila's heart clenched. She was being stalked by an ex-boyfriend. 4 months. She told me, but his voice cracked. I thought I had time. I thought I could handle it through legal channels. Restraining orders. Security. All the proper procedures. He turned to the window, shoulders rigid. I was wrong. He broke into her apartment one night. By the time security responded, he stopped, exhaled slowly. I couldn't save her. I had all the money, all the power, all the resources in the world, and I couldn't save my own sister. Tears burned Lila's eyes. When I saw you last night, he continued, voice rough, with that wound on your arm, with fear in your eyes trying so hard to pretend everything was fine, I saw Elena. And I refused to make the same mistake twice. Lila set down her mug and crossed to him, placing a hand on his arm. He flinched at the contact, like gentleness was a foreign language he'd forgotten how to speak. I'm sorry, she whispered. About Elena. About what you've carried alone. I'm not asking for your pity. He finally met her eyes. I'm asking you to understand why I did what I did. Why I can't, won't apologize for protecting you. I know. And somehow, terrifyingly, she did understand. I feel safer with you than I've felt anywhere in months. Maybe years. Something in his expression softened, cracked open. They ate breakfast together, fruit, pastries, eggs he'd somehow made perfectly despite looking like someone who'd never touched a stove. He told her about the security team he'd already contacted, the arrangements he'd made for discreet hospital transport, the boundaries he'd set to ensure she never felt trapped. You're free to leave, he said, voice careful. Right now. Today. Whenever. I won't cage you, Lila. I won't control you. But I want you here. He paused, vulnerable in a way that felt more intimate than any touch. Not because you owe me anything, but because I care. And I hope, you might care too. Lila looked at him across the breakfast table, this complicated man who'd killed to protect her, who'd watched her from shadows, who'd seen her when she was invisible to everyone else. I'll stay, she said quietly. Not because I'm afraid. Because I want to. The relief that flooded his face was answer enough. 2 weeks passed like a slow exhale. Cassian became her ride home after brutal shifts, waiting in the hospital parking garage with that same Blacktown car, never pushing, never demanding, just present. They shared quiet dinners in the penthouse, sometimes talking, sometimes not, learning each other's silences. She discovered he was funny when he let his guard down, that he read philosophy and poetry, that he played piano at 2 a.m. when he couldn't sleep. He learned she sang off-key while cooking, that she collected terrible puns, that she cried at commercials featuring dogs. The cold, dangerous billionaire became simply Cassian. Still intense, still protective, but gentle in ways that made her chest ache. He never pushed for more than she was ready to give. Never assumed. Never demanded. He just stayed. 3 weeks after the storm, Lila stood at the penthouse windows watching sunset paint the city gold and amber. Her arm had healed, the wound closing into a thin pink line that would fade with time. She felt Cassian approach before she saw him, his presence a steady warmth at her back. How's the arm? He asked softly. Better. She held it up for inspection. Barely noticeable now. He took her wrist gently, ran his thumb over the fading scar with such tenderness it stole her breath. You're safe now, Lila, he murmured. With me, you'll always be safe. She turned to face him, saw the vulnerability in his eyes, the fear that she might still run, still reject everything he tried to build for them. Instead, she smiled, really smiled, for the first time in weeks. "I know," she whispered. Outside, storm clouds that had threatened all afternoon finally broke apart, revealing brilliant blue sky. Sunlight flooded through the windows, warm and promising, chasing away every shadow. Cassian cupped her face, his touch reverent, like she was something precious he'd spent his whole life searching for. "Thank you," he breathed. "For trusting me. For staying. For being brave enough to let someone protect you." "Thank you," she replied. "For seeing me when I was invisible. For refusing to let me face the darkness alone." He leaned down slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met soft and gentle, a promise rather than a demand, and Lila felt something inside her chest that had been broken for so long finally begin to heal. The storm had passed. And in its wake, they'd found something neither expected but both desperately needed. Someone to walk through the darkness with, someone to hold when thunder rolled, someone to trust when the world felt dangerous and uncertain. Someone to call home. Outside, the city glowed gold in the evening light. Inside, two people who'd found each other in the worst storm learned what it meant to be safe, to be seen, to be cherished. And for the first time in longer than either could remember, the future felt bright. Thank you for watching. If this story pulled you in, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support means everything and keeps these stories coming. Stay connected, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next episode for more unforgettable moments.